So, Stephen Woosley has passed on. I can't say I was shocked when I heard. No, not shocked. That's not the word I'd use. Pleased. That one works. I'm just glad I was here at this time to check my spam folder and see the message from Colleen. Now, she told me about Stephen, then asked for money as usual. Her messages always end up like that. And no, I never send her any money, no matter how many pictures she attaches. But it's at times like this when a half-remembered friend reaches out and asks you to say a few words about a very special someone. And by special, I mean special needs. That makes me happy to be able to vent for a few minutes and also feel comforted by the fact that I live in a completely different city from Stephen. I'm just far enough away to be an expected no-show. Now, Stephen, or as his close friends and his mother always referred to him, that little asshole, has been few things to many people. Actor, writer, director, Hep C positive, short. He was also a new husband and lover to his longtime bank account drain, Melania. I'm sorry, Carlene, Collagen, whatever the hell her name is. They were very special lovers, like history's most famous couples, Bogey and Bacall, Antony and Cleopatra, Dolph and Eva, Lady and the Tramp, Tango and Cash. I think they even had one of those couples names that people knew them by. Who could ever forget the likes of Colleen and Stephen, or the name that most of us knew them by, Tits and Ass? I like to think that they met somewhere special, like a dance floor that they'd both passed out on, or seeing each other across a crowded holding cell. They probably traded phone numbers after realizing they were both the same shade of jaundice. Theirs was a match made in heaving. They were eminently suited for one another. They were both avid runners and liked to stay active. In fact, Stephen went cave diving with Colleen on their honeymoon. Sorry, that's not right. I think Stephen went cave diving in Colleen on their honeymoon. He found her surprisingly roomy with plenty of trunk space, like a Ford Focus, but with better headlights. So now, while the rest of us try to deal with the fact that Stephen is no longer around, we must remember to let Colleen grieve in her own way and in her own time and update her own Tinder profile. So while she does that, let's reminisce about a man that we've all looked down upon, and only mostly because of his height. So tonight, we take this opportunity to set the record straight, to find the man behind the facade, to find the man behind the curtain. Oh, fuck it, just try to find the man. It's like a Bigfoot sighting, only the exact opposite. I guess everyone should just check their backyards for one extra garden gnome. Now, Stephen was a man who embodied terms like courage, honor, and compassion, as long as they were preceded by other words like has no, could use some, and he probably never heard of. To some, he was a seasoned veteran. To others, a seasoned ham. To still others, he was a source of comfort in these troubled times. But I don't think these people knew the real Stephen Woosley. No, seriously, I think they're talking about someone else. Stephen was not remotely any of those things. He originally hailed from Donaldsville, Ohio. Hey, you know what's a fun thing to do in Donaldsville? Pack up and get the fuck out. And that's just what he did. He moved to Columbus faster than a Mets fan throws in the towel. He quickly established himself as something I couldn't be bothered with finding out. I think he earns his money from cockfighting. It's the only sport I know of where he made the height requirement. Plus, I heard he's good at choking his chicken. Now, I only knew him from Mad Lab. That's where we first met. Now, he was in a show I'd written for them many years ago. I came down from Cleveland and pretended to like his acting in my play. I'm sorry, I just Freudian slipped there. I meant to say, fucking up my play. The best acting of the night was my shaking his hand and saying, good job. Now, some people knew Stephen as a director first and an actor second. And after watching him on stage, I think it's safe to say that as an actor, he was number two. Watching Stephen act on stage was like watching Stevie Wonder navigate a rope ladder. He flailed around a lot. He tripped on the set pieces. But every so often, if you listened for it, he would actually say a line from the script. Now, it didn't happen often. This guy would paraphrase a one-word sentence. But if you were lucky and not the playwright, you might think the play made sense despite whatever he vomited up on a nightly basis that wasn't alcohol-related. Now, some actors have a tendency to play it big and over the top, but not Stephen. He doesn't overact. In fact, he does the opposite. He underperforms. But we're not here to talk about his wedding night. I will give him this, though. He knows how to project. In fact, some of the folks at Mad Lab have always referred to him as Old Yeller, which is ironic considering how many of us wanted to take him out beyond the woodshed to put him down. Of course, to be fair, the reason it was hard to watch Stephen act on stage is that at Mad Lab, although there really aren't any bad seats, he was so tiny, it was like seeing every show from the upper deck of a stadium. Sometimes, though, a Mad Lab play called for something other than a blonde midget who was the size of his own liver, like an all-woman cast or someone who speaks English fluently. And at that point, Stephen rose up or, climbed up and took the director's chair. He directed a handful of shows there, or as they're collectively called, the 5 stages of grief. And as a director, let me say one thing. Stephen couldn't direct a stream of his own urine with both hands tied to his dick. I've got rectal polyps with more potential for growth than he's shown in all of his years of directing plays. My incontinent grandmother had a better control over the flow of things than Stephen did. I wouldn't trust him to block a drain, let alone a 2-act play. Although, to be fair, having seen some of the pieces of shit he's been responsible for, makes me think he could block a toilet. I never thought there'd be an upside to cataracts. Oh, and he couldn't cast a show for shit. He could barely cast a shadow. Speaking of which, you could always tell when Stephen cast a show. If he did it before February 2nd, it meant 6 more weeks of crappy theater. His direction always left the actors looking pained and put out. Oh, and speaking of putting out, let's mention Colleen and her contributions to his success there. Now, she's helped stage manage, set build, and administrate for him, all without a trace of nepotism. She's even acted for and with him on stage. It's nice to see her spread her legs and finally fly. She really earned her spot on the casting couch. It's a wet spot, but a spot nevertheless. Now, Stephen was a writer, too. He wrote a number of short plays. They were full length for him. All of his plays started out the same way. A man walks into a bar. At that point, Stephen ordered around and no more writing got done. And when he did write, the plots were sophomoric, the writing pedantic, the characters derivative. In other words, I was definitely plagiarized. But it's not all bad news. If there's a silver lining here, it's this. Coming to one of Stephen's plays always guaranteed one sure thing. Plenty of empty parking spaces. Oh, hey, I just realized I met my word count for this. I can wrap this up. Now, Barb wanted to say something too, but she realized that she also wanted a place to crash if we ever decided to come down again. Sophie, of course, left your present out in the yard. We'll bring it whenever we come down to whatever pet cemetery Colleen buries your shoebox in. Stephen, listen. It's been a lot of fun looking at online porn instead of writing your eulogy. But since I don't want to cry because I'm out of Kleenex, go figure, I'll try to keep this succinct. You've been a good friend in the years I've known you, and I hope we can remain such in the time to come. You've made me feel like family, even down to trying to borrow money you'll never repay. And despite that, it's been an honor and a privilege to know you. Happy birthday, and hope for many more.